In recent weeks, there has been talk of a virus much more lethal than COVID, and everyone fears it is about to arrive. A wave much more dangerous than the one we experienced in 2020 to 2021. And today we are going to talk in detail about this very virus from the perspective of an investor who has been living off investments for many years now, that is, myself. Let's start with the main data. So, where did this virus originate and how many years ago? This virus comes from the Hantavirus family and has existed for decades. The first Hantavirus was isolated in 1978 in South Korea near the Hantan River, from which it actually took its name. It was linked to cases during the Korean War in the 1950s. Hantavirus, particularly the Andes strain, due to a recent outbreak that started on a cruise ship in the Atlantic. At the beginning of May, it became well known because of fears that it could be a sort of COVID 2.0. And it is precisely this strain, the Andes, from the recent outbreak in the Atlantic that was identified for the first time, actually not recently, but already in 1995 in South America, and is carried by local rodents. Human-to-human transmission was essentially already noted in 1996. Obviously, since on this channel we only talk about investments, I noticed a trend among the people around me who immediately asked me whether companies related to vaccines might see growth. In a very similar fashion to what occurred back in 2020 and 2021 with Pfizer, Moderna, and many others, whose market valuations experienced exponential growth on the stock market due to the global pandemic. This obviously resulted in significantly increasing the personal wealth of numerous investors, making them even much richer than they already were. And today, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. We'll analyze the data available on the market. First of all, the likelihood that this virus will go viral like COVID is actually very low because its spread is extremely rare. To give you an idea, the transmission rate of the Hantavirus is not very contagious among people, and it is almost always contracted from rodents, mice, rats, wild animals, and so on, through inhalation of particles from urine or feces, or through direct contact, including bites, scratches, or wounds. It does not spread as easily as COVID or the flu. However, the exception is the Andes variant of this virus, which is the one that was found on the ship at the beginning of May and is the strain responsible for the current outbreak. And it is the only Hantavirus with documented person-to-person transmission, but it is limited and rare. In fact, transmission itself requires close and prolonged contact, such as living together, caring for the sick, or being in enclosed spaces, and so on. It is not transmitted through the air at a distance like a common respiratory virus, even in the outbreak. On the ship, in fact, most of the cases appear to be linked to some kind of initial exposure to rodents in South America, with only a few limited secondary infections. As a result, the overall risk for the population remains low. In fact, the WHO and health authorities, including Italy, say that there is currently no risk of a pandemic. So it is rare and does not spread easily. Essentially, this virus. Now let's actually talk about the most concerning aspect, which is its lethality, because it can be very, very high. That is up to 30 to 50% for severe pulmonary forms without prompt treatment, but with early diagnosis and medical support, especially respiratory support, the recovery rate improves significantly. Now let's make a speculative and unlikely hypothesis, because so far, based on all the data collected, it's not very likely that there will be a sort of COVID 2.0. And consequently, it's not very likely that companies related to this sector will boom as they did during COVID. Still, let's do it anyway, a speculative and unlikely hypothesis according to the available data. In the event that it were to become much more viral worldwide, and let's say that the companies most exposed to treating this virus are primarily Moderna, ticker symbol mRNA, which is the most mentioned and has the greatest potential upside because it has been working for years on mRNA vaccines. For the antivirus, also in collaboration with the US Army, and already has research underway since 2023 with, let's say, preclinical results, positive ones. The second is nanovicides, or NNVC. This is the ticker. You can enter, let's say, on TradingView to find it. And it focuses mainly on broad-spectrum antivirals and is already in the clinical phase for other respiratory viruses. However, this is a small biotech company, so it could experience potentially very, very strong price movements, both upward and downward. As a result, it is much, much riskier compared to mRNA, that is Moderna. Then the third one, Traws Pharma, or TRAW. This one too, obviously, is a small cap with high risk and of course also high potential returns in the rare case that this virus were to spread much more significantly among people. However, there is a very important point to make, because even if this virus were to spread in a significant way, let's say that only those who actually obtained positive clinical data and therefore signed contracts with governments would convert the hype into real value, and as a result would see strong growth on the stock market if this virus were to spread much more, but for now that seems unlikely. And furthermore, even if it were to become much more likely, it would still be a bet among several names in the pharmaceutical world. However, at least now you have the three main names that would theoretically be the three main potential candidates to solve this problem. If you would like to have much more specific stock market analyses, both technical and fundamental, of these three companies or many others, you just need to go to the description below and join our premium group, where we share every day all kinds of general and very specific analyses, both technical and fundamental. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one. Goodbye, guys.